Okay, guys, I've been, me and a friend of mine have been working on designing a sixth order for the Tahoe, and it's got me to thinking about a whole lot of elements of the sixth order enclosure. And let me show you what I'm working on here. So, I'm just going to finish sketching up this badly sketched up enclosure here for demonstration purposes. So last night we were looking at the numbers uh, for the port that'll be up here, or yeah, in the back here. So these lines should be connected. They're not, but assume they are. And this will be the top up here. This is the back of the vehicle where the taillights are. This is the bottom, and then up here is where your seat's going to be located. Like, so we'll finish the bottom chamber here to illustrate this. Uh, it's not a good drawing, but it doesn't have to be a good drawing. So we'll leave that spot open, and our port's going to be right here. Okay, and then in this area here, you got subwoofers. Okay, and more subwoofers. There's 6 subwoofers here. Okay, 3 and 3. So this being the front port, this being the back port, and this is the bottom chamber. So here's my thoughts on this. Well, basically, the way that the sixth order works is um, this bottom chamber acts like a ported enclosure, and this port is tuned to your low frequency. So in my case, it's going to be 24. All right, and as these drivers move in and out, they're going to push air into this port and create a tone right here, a 24 hertz tone. Okay, well, that tone, the sound of that port will escape into the cabin via this big old hole right here, right? Now, as the music is playing higher notes and it gets to where it's not inside this port anymore, then this section here uses this big, huge port to produce the higher tone. And this bottom, this is the part that's got me to thinking. So once this is producing the high tone by moving the air in and out of this port, okay, which is coming from these cones, the backside of these cones, you still got things happening down here, right? So this is the part that I was thinking about. This air coming off of this side of the driver is moving the opposite of this air up here. So as you have uh, air moving uh, like so, okay, this air is going to be, we'll say, positive, and then this air up here is going to be negative. Just giving them a number. So this negative air is working inside of this port back and forth, right? And this positive air is coming in this way, coming up. Now, it is doing the opposite of what this air is doing in here. So, by my way of thinking, once it mixes in this area or coming out of this port, it's going to create a spot where there's no pressure behind this sub. Because it's going to be creating, think of it like this, as this air is making its way around and coming up through here, it's doing the opposite of what this side's doing. So this air is positive. It's going to be pushing whenever the sub is pushing and pulling when the sub is pulling. So it's going to create a zone in this area that would be no pressure against the back of that sub and no pressure against the front of the sub, because this port is not a sealed port. If it's up past its tune, it's not going to be creating pressure. So you're going to unload back here. And then, but then you still don't have to worry about this area pressuring, because at the higher tuning frequency, the port will still be acting as a resistance, because the frequency is too high of a pitch to be able to escape the port. So it's going to still be creating an air plug. So that means you still get pressure here, but you're going to be moving some air through here that's going to be pushing and pulling the wrong way against the air in here. So I thought about this. I know I'm having a hard time explaining what my brain is thinking. Hopefully you guys are wrapping your head around it, even if it's not correct. So this negative air coming in is working against this air to keep this air from creating a pressure, a buildup of pressure and release of pressure. This air is it's creating a leak, if you will, but it's not just a leak. It's actually actively pulling and pushing when it shouldn't be. But I got to thinking about that. So this is kind of the key part. Okay. Once you get to this point and you kind of understand what my brain is thinking, which is probably all messed up. The velocity of this air coming in and out of here is going to be different from the velocity here. So let's say it's positive and negative right here, right? It's actually the opposite of this air. But whenever you speed all that up a certain amount by pushing it through this port, which is now just a hole, when you increase the velocity of that frequency, my question is, once that air comes out up here, has it been sped up so much that it's now moving twice as fast, still pulsing at the same negative wave, but up here it's moving twice as fast, so it's actually going to get to this top chamber twice as quick. Therefore, once it gets up here in the top chamber, it would now be a positive or a negative charge. And this port would actively be acting as if it were another subwoofer to this port. Interesting, right? Now, you may have to watch this over again. I don't know if I've explained it correctly. Just to go back over it one more time, the air down here is the opposite of the air up here, but once it moves through the port and gets accelerated through the port, does it reach the point to where it's twice as fast? And therefore, by the time it gets in this chamber, it's actually working the same as the back of the driver, which takes all of the accumulated air from the bottom and the top via this high-speed road, and then sends it to this port to create your high frequencies. If that's the case, if that's how that's working, then that would mean that the diameter or the amount of port area would become doubly important. Normally, in just a seal or just a regular vented enclosure, all you're using the port for is creating a tone, right? So it could technically be any size, as long as the subwoofers can create enough air to plug that port, and you can get that air plug to moving and creating your tone. It could be any size. The length matters, but it could be any size and still accomplish the same thing. But in the sixth order, since this port at the low frequency is actually acting as a port, but then later it's acting as a way to move air from this chamber to this chamber and to reverse it or speed it up, then that port width, the area of that port is going to become extremely important, because it has two jobs. One is to play the tone. The other is to change the polarity, if you will, of the air as it moves into this chamber, so that it matches this, and they can work together to provide lots of violence right here in this front port. Interesting, huh? I know, probably badly explained, but I wanted to throw it out there. You guys in the comments down below, chime in with your ideas because I'm really interested in working this out in my head. I want this to make sense in my brain. Um, if you guys enjoy this kind of weird stuff, let me know. And also hit that subscribe button, like and subscribe. It makes a big difference for my channel. It's like literally everything for my channel. But in this case today, we are simply having a thought experiment. And I want to know what you guys think about this. What your input is. Am I on the right track? Do you know? Are you guessing? Anyway, thanks.